right, and welcome to Friday Facts number 427, Combat Balancing in Space Age LAN. I have my good LAN friend with me. How you doing, Mojo?
Hello, how's it going?
You sound different. I believe you're in a slightly different time zone.
Yeah, it's first thing in the morning here. It's nearly 8 o'clock in the morning here. I nearly looked at my laptop time and I realized it's still on Australian time.
Yeah,
Really dumb.
yeah. We'll talk about the LAN a bit more in a second, but we've got some combat balancing tweaks to go through. So, couple of things. They increased the spawner health and with the evolution factor because spawners were a pain when you had pistols, and then by the time you got to mid game they were laughable, and by the time you got to late game you just ignored them. So now,
Yeah, they were just sort of this thing you bonk into in the tank, and I was like, oh, there's a thing in the way.
do you bonk into them? No, you just normally drive through them. The biters is what you bonk into.
Yeah, you drive through them. It's just like a bump in the road. And it just bounces over it.
Yeah. So now the evolution.
And then you get the Spidertron, and it just steps over it, and you don't even notice them anymore.
Normally they're dead before you get there. If you've done it right, they're dead before you get there.
Yeah.
But mainly due to the PLDs. But we'll cover the PLDs in a second.
Dealt with them.
Yep. The evolution, as the evolution goes up, the spawner health will also go up, which means that at 100% evolution, they're going to be 3,500 hit points, which is the same as a behemoth biter, which is a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot, yes.
Yeah. So that's going to be a little bit different. Yeah. Very, very, very different. Yeah. So during my playtest, I actually underestimated them a little bit, and there were pleasant surprises when mid-game nests were giving our tanks some trouble instead of being steamrolled like before. So I actually call this a good change. I think this is worth it because yes, they were ignorable. Which is funny because the biters they're now putting out
irrelevant fairly quickly.
Yeah, because they're putting out biters that are now 4 times the size, and yet their hit points and everything didn't change. Yeah. So they removed the explosive resistance.
You always focused on the biters, not the spawners. You wanted to stop them spawning, but taking them down wasn't difficult.
No,
you'd focus on the spawners because they were so easy to kill.
You'd focus on the spawners that only deal with the biters when you're at the point of things are not going back well. So I'll go deal with the biters for a bit and cut down their numbers, and then I'll go back to just steamrolling as many spawners as possible. Yeah. So they also increased the health and laser resistance for medium, big, and behemoth worms, which is a little bit worrying, and they doubled the artillery damage, which probably makes sense because artillery used to do 500 damage, so now it does 1,000 damage. So it means a behemoth spawner is going to take 2 shells, which is okay. I can accept that. That seems reasonable.
Yep, that's fine. I mean, the artillery is going to deal with it one way or another. You have 100 artillery wagons. Everything within its radius is going to be dead very quickly.
Yeah, well, even if they didn't boost the damage, you go from needing potentially 5 shells down to 2 shells. It was an either or. I'm just stretching my shells further and taking out more spawners. But with artillery damage doubled, it does mean they have a better chance of taking out biters. Because that's one thing I was not happy about, that you couldn't carpet bomb biters and actually take out a phalanx as they were on the way in. They just didn't care.
Yeah, you need to absolutely pepper the ground in front of biters before you would actually kill them in any significant quantity.
And you couldn't take out a behemoth, didn't matter what you did. The amount of shells was just pointless. So
it just bounces off.
Yeah. But then there's more tweaks. So personal combat tweaks. Combat robots a little bit too weak, especially given how expensive they were. It's a shame because the automation of flying robots is actually a fairly interesting set of recipes, so they buffed them a little bit. So the distractor, they doubled the health and they increased the time from 45 seconds to 90 seconds. They're the ones we throw out, sit there with lasers, and just pepper whatever's underneath them. I like them. They're really good. They're great for taking out spawners, actually. Throw them above a spawner. Spawner is dead.
Distractors aren't. They were kind of good for spawners, but they were always, their health was always bad and their lifetime was always so bad that they're just the destroyers and the first ones, I forget what they are because distractors is the second one. Defenders.
Yeah.
Defenders and destroyers were just so much better overall.
But
destroyers, I made this comment before. Destroyers have actually always been viable. They were the go-to before the combat rebalance in version 13.
Yeah.
It sort of eclipsed them. They've always been there, and it's good to see them sort of bring to the forefront again.
So, but in 13 we went to the spin to win method. Yeah. Spin to win with a flamethrower, which then got nerfed.
Fire got buffed.
Yeah. and then it's been nerfed back
brought back
down.
to something sensible.
Yeah, so distractors have the advantage they don't follow you. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, they just sit in place.
Yeah, and yeah, destroyers are one of the best.
Destroyers are the zappy ones, and defenders are the machine gunny ones.
Machine gun ones, yeah.
Huge biters, and it's only good for small and mediums. I mean, even mediums they used to struggle with.
They do all right with mediums because they get some of those upgrades as well that you get from research. So, Destroyer increased the base damage and also increased the range. So, can't argue with that. But they also changed a few other offensive player combat, nothing particular, just trying to make it more fun. Personal lasers, we found them to be strong. Too strong, especially if you can have multiple. Of course, you can have multiple. So, they nerfed the damage by 66%, which is an ouchies. That's
a big ouchie.
Yeah. I can now.
We were doing some calculation. I forget what it is. I think it's like 6 or 7 damage researchers to recover back to the same tier, back to the same level.
Oh wow, that's a lot.
I forget the exact number.
It does mean that quality for PLDs is going to be very important, actually. Right.
Yeah. It's bringing quality to the forefront. So it means that you really like. I'd have to see the numbers for what the legendary level PLD does for damage, but yeah, it's probably more than. I think that's why it's really actually done is that the base damage is too high, and that once you get the legendary or even the a blue tier 1, it's just
far too
ridiculous.
high. Yeah. So cannon shells increase the damage and range, which is probably worth it because cannon shells were like a meh. I didn't care.
Cannon shells were a bit average.
It was easy to use the machine gun inside the tank because it rotated faster, it shot faster. Yeah. In shotgun shells, increase the base damage from 5 to 8, which might make shotguns viable.
Shotguns early game are viable, but they very quickly fall off late game. They just don't quite have the damage. Even back in the shotgun destroyer days, it was more there just to help throw a little bit of extra damage when the destroyers were doing all the work.
Yeah, it was also that, and
early game after all the weapon tweaks, shotgun was okay, but it just fell away.
Well, shotgun, I think the big advantage was it fires in that arc, and with the combat shotgun, you could unload lots of shells in a hurry. And that's all it was. It was lots of DPS, and you didn't have to accurately hit one target. You'd sort of spread and do a bit of damage generally. And then we have rockets accelerate twice as fast. So now if you accidentally press space in your base, you have 0 chance of running away. Good to know.
Yeah. You got to blow up your base twice as fast. But it does mean the rockets coming out of the Spidertron are a lot faster now.
It does. I
actually wonder if that's to help with fighting the Pentapod.
Probably. So then we have stone loot sabotage. So you ever encounter a situation where you're surveying a factory around the corner and you see something exceedingly suspicious, like stone randomly loaded onto a train that it's not meant to? Could it be sabotage? A bug? No clue. You look really closely and you find there's random bits of stone on the ground from previous artillery shells. Yeah.
You know what? That is never a problem that I've ever encountered.
It's never a problem I've encountered either, because when I go to a new area, I have a filtered decon planner that is marked for items on the ground.
Clean the place up.
Yeah, items on the ground, cliffs, and trees. And I just mark the whole area. And even if I don't physically pick up the items, they're marked for decon. So because they're marked for decon, they can't jump on a belt and sabotage a belt. They can't be picked up by an inserter. And if somebody walks past them or I build robot range, they'll get picked up. So, yeah, I've never had this problem. Ever had this problem. But yes, given down to this big butter bases are how much they get blanket artillery or such, there are little stone droppings surprisingly quite frequent sight. Once to the ground, if a transport belt is on top, the items are not marked for deconstruction or anything, so these little stony friends make their way happily along the belts. If they're innocent little creatures, end up causing chaos. A few ways to solve it: we can mark the items on the ground for deconstruction or make belts collide with items so the robots pick them up before building. But the end, we went the simplest option: they just don't drop any stones anymore. Did the little stone poops make the game fun? Is rock droppings core part of the game design? Does removing them betray the vision of what we want the game to become? These are questions that keep me up at night. Honestly, they could go. They make no difference. It's never a problem I've had, ever.
The
by
funny
just
thing is that when you destroyed a rock in older versions, I'm pretty sure it just deleted it anyway. Stone rock
it did.
or mining rocks for stone only was a more recent thing.
I believe if you shot the rock first, so it was damaged, and then mined it, it would mine faster because it had less hit points. But you still got the whole amount of stone.
Yeah.
So it was a compromise you could do to mine faster for the early game if you want to waste your iron on bullets on therefore stone. But yeah, it was if you ran over them in a tank, they just disappeared. They were gone.
See, I remember shooting rocks to just clear them back in the day.
A shotgun. That was one of the reasons we had a shotgun. It shot rocks really well.
Or machine gun.
Yeah. And then
it did too. And trees. It was a good tree trimmer.
Yeah, shotgun is a great tree trimmer, although it was superseded with the flamethrower and with grenades very quickly. And then we have the most interesting part of this Friday Facts being the Space Age LAN party. So they're hosting a small LAN party these couple of days going to the weekend. They invited a number of community members, Factorio content creators, modders, and more. There's about 100 people, I believe, Mojo, right?
Yeah, about 100 people, yeah.
Yeah, small. In Australia, small is like 20. 100 is a lot generally. We don't have large LAN events here in Australia anymore. So the main goal of the event is to have one last big playthrough before the upcoming release in October. So if we have any time to fix any problems and balance expansion before the actual release. Whilst we can't say much about the results at this moment, the playtest is going on right this minute. Well, at least it will be in an hour when you get back to the exhibition center, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, roughly.
It opens again in about an hour's time.
Yeah. So we can share a few photographs from yesterday. So yesterday would be day 1, right?
Yeah, this would have been day 1 when everyone was starting.
Yeah. And they also say you might see some news or videos from favorite content creators about the event in the next couple of days and weeks. So you have a chance to have gone. I did not have a chance to go. I was invited, but I can say I was looking at it's about $6,000 Australian to fly there. I don't know whether you want to say how much it actually cost you to get there and your tally so far. But it's not cheap. It's not cheap to fly from Australia to Europe.
It's less. It's not cheap, but it's been less for me. But for deals and various savings, I was able to get the price down.
Yeah. So you actually went through the process, whereas I did the quick calculations. Like, wow, that's going to be not fun. Not fun. So we do have a couple of pictures from the events. I know. Gosh, who can I say has confirmed they're there? Colonel Will's confirmed they're there. Exterminator's confirmed they're there. Neil Ass confirmed they're there. I think Catherine Sky has confirmed she's there. Yep.
Probably.
Bentham is there, I've been told.
I haven't seen him.
There's a number of content creators and modders.
Yep, a lot of modders are there too.
Yeah, a lot of modders are there. So it's a good mix mash of lots of different people from the community and lots of photos and lots of Alienware PCs.
Yes. We've really been making those 4090s work hard.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet they're doing their very best to overheat as fast as possible. Or at least the players are trying to do that. Yeah. So a lot of us got into it. I wish we well. This is a very good way to play test the game by having 100 people there, split up with small teams and doing a playthrough and seeing what they break, what they don't break, what notes they can give, that sort of stuff along the way. And now you had to sign an NDA to go, right? So you can't give a lot of details, but I do have a couple of questions which we've worked out are going to be outside the NDA, so you're going to be fine with them. So now you've had hands-on experience for about 30 hours, about 3 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you're more hyped now that you've had the hands-on experience than before you left, or not?
I am hyped because now getting hands-on with all of the new mechanics that we've seen has really, seeing it in the Friday Facts is one thing, but actually experiencing them is completely different.
Yeah.
You really get to understand just how cool it is.
You get to understand
all this new stuff.
That deeper depth and how one system integrates with the next system, whereas in the Friday Facts we can speculate, and that's one of the reasons we do the Friday Facts, so we can talk through what they've added, talk through how we think it's going to work, speculate on how one system's going to integrate with the next system, so on and
Yeah.
so forth. But then seeing it in person, totally different thing. Yeah. Next question I have: we've covered a lot in the Friday Facts. Like we've been doing Friday Facts ever since they started back up, and even prior to that. And Mojo, now you've gone. You're part way into the game. You're obviously not finished. You haven't gone to all the planets. Roughly, what percentage would you?
We have been taking a bit chill to try and understand things, but yeah.
Yeah. So, what percentage roughly would you say has been covered? What percentage of what you've seen so far has been covered in previous Friday Facts?
So we don't know what we don't know,
Yep.
but because I haven't seen everything yet, but there is at least half hasn't been seen yet,
Hasn't been seen in Friday Facts. Nobody
Which
knows
is
what it is.
which we haven't. Yeah, of what we haven't seen yet, which
Yep.
is what I always speculated in our previous videos, is that, like, I kept saying, like, we haven't seen the rest of Fusion. We haven't seen really what's going on Gleba. We haven't really seen the biochamber in any great detail. We've only ever seen the foundry in great detail. We've seen most of the EM plant, but I think there's still a lot that we haven't seen.
Oh, the AM assembler thing. Yeah. Look, it's something.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why we get to every end of every video and we ask, "What's your prediction for next week?" Because yes, we at that point go, okay, what hasn't been covered? What are we still short on information on? Where is there more details definitely going to come? And then they throw a side curveball with, like, here's a LAN party, or here's combat balances, or so on and so forth, which then gives us more details, but also brings up more questions. Yeah. And then, so 30 hours playtime in the game so far, and it's multiplayer, so it's going to be faster than a normal single player playthrough, a lot faster because there's 10 in a team. Roughly how far into the game do you think you are of the total space age? And I know you don't know where the end is, so it's hard to guess.
I think we've barely scratched the surface so far in our playthrough.
So you think 60 hours, 90 hours, 120 hours for a playthrough start to end?
So I don't want to put a number to that, because it very much depends on the type of player that you are.
It does.
If you are a speedy person, probably 100 hours, you could crank through most of it. Touch most things.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would be hundreds of hours if you were to take your time and really, more casually flow through it. You'll be at it for a long time.
Okay, so that means that October, there's going to be a new Factorio Let's Play that's going to be, from the sounds of it, a very long Let's Play. Yeah.
Yes, you're going to have a long Let's Play.
Yeah. That's it for this Friday Facts. It's a short one. There's some combat balances. They remove stone on the ground, and there's a small LAN going on, which means they didn't type a lot because they had 100 guests they needed to entertain with more than just a DLC.
Yes.
So that brings me to next.
And slowly losing their sanity every time the game crashes.
Oh, it's crashing, is it? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Think that this is people doing things in ways that are not expected, and it's really stress testing the game.
Oh yeah, I literally, before we started this call, I was having a conversation with a different dev where I was again doing things that they hadn't expected and showing problems on a stable build of their game. Yeah. That they just hadn't considered. Yeah. It's also fairly well developed and fairly stable at this point, and they're like they pride themselves in not having any bugs. But, bugs were found. So, Mojo, last question, most important question I have, given you now have much more experience than a majority of the community, predictions for next week's Friday Facts.
I have this sneaking suspicion it's going to be something about a LAN party.
Oh, really? You took the easy answer. You suck.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I should also add, with the crashing, it has been extremely stable overall. I haven't had a crash on me at all.
I would expect, knowing Woob's history, it's been very, very stable, and it's players doing things that players shouldn't do, because You know,
I should bring into context that this is 100 people playing the game at the same time, so you have 100 chances of a game to crash, and so it's instantly more often than more constrained playthroughs.
yeah,
And between the developers.
So nobody's probably ever asked the question, can I build rails on a space platform? But I'm sure after today, that question has been answered. Somebody has tried it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, just because they could. No other reason, but, because they wanted to drive a train across the space platform. Probably was only 3 tracks long, but it was the thought that counts. Just want to know if things would suddenly explode if a
exactly.
train was in space, facing backwards. Yeah, does it accelerate faster if it's going back towards the engines or not? All these questions that must be answered. Anyway, next week, I feel we're going to get a deeper dive into the LAN party, the LAN event. I also think maybe with the balance changes to combat, they might tell us a little bit more about other friends. I'm going to put my money behind friends.
You're going back on the Biter train.
Yeah,
back on the Biter train.
Yeah, I'm expecting more details about friends. Yeah, I think that would be...
Yep.
Because they've touched on combat balances like the stone, nobody cares. Like, honestly, they could have skipped the Friday Facts completely. Nobody would have given a shit.
Yeah.
I
didn't even read it.
I read it, and I made a comment during my stream last night that, it's never affected me. A mistake made maybe once off, and then mark the ground for decon beforehand. That way, anything that was randomly on the ground. Although I probably learnt that trick from previously with playing with Biter Goo required for science. So you would mark areas of the ground intentionally in case there was purple goop that you hadn't picked up previously, because you hadn't run over it correctly. So if it was marked for decon and you walked near it, a bot would fly off and pick it up at the very minimum, because you'd end up having to farm that stuff forever to get all the research done. So, especially when we start adding stupid mods with infinite tech prior to having any way to infinitely make Biter Goop. Yeah, things that we've done in the past. But, yeah, my prediction is going to be more details on the LAN, how it went. Probably, maybe they'll throw in overall crash numbers or something like that. Overall progress.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some stats on how the game performed. I'm very curious.
Yeah. Also, who built the most science per minute? That one I'm curious on. 5 days, 50 hours worth of Factorio, dedicated team. Team, let's use the word team loosely, because you might not have met or known the people on your team previously. How far did, the best team get in science per minute? Overall stats, and I'm expecting something on Biters. But with all that said and done, you have an event to get to. I have other videos I need to do. And I'm going to say thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you back here next week when Mojo gets back to the country. I believe like the day before the Friday Facts. You get back on a Friday, don't you?
Yeah, I'll be back Friday.
Yeah, so it's like, 2 days there, 2 days home, and then 7 days on site for a, yeah. The joys of living so far from the rest of the world.
At least the trip back, the day won't be 32 hours long.
No, because you... No, because you're going to go forward in time, so it'll be over several days. It might... Yeah.
Well, it compresses. It basically means I don't have a Thursday.
Yeah, you lose one whole day.
It's compressed.
Yep. The joys of time zones.
And going the other way, I was chasing the sunlight.
Yeah.
Which meant that it just made the day longer.
Yeah, you gained 8 hours in a day, and then on the way back, you're going to lose 8 hours in a day, which means you fly out one day and you skip the next day and you arrive the day after, because time zones. Yep. Anyway, we're going to leave this here. As always, thank you for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed, and we'll chat to you next week with Friday Facts number 428. That's it. We're out. Bye.
Bye-bye.